Hey, folks, welcome to a new episode of the Whiskey Ring Podcast. Today, we're going back to North Carolina, and we are here to talk Oaklore Distilling. To join me, we've got Matt Simpkins and Tom Bogan. Did I get that right?
Bogan.
Bogan. Okay, Bogan. Matt and Tom are co founders of Oaklore, founded it in 2017, 2018, depending on which source I used. So we'll go with 2017, 2018. Matt, Tom, welcome on.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for having us, David. Looking forward to it, man.
Absolutely. So let's just start off where we usually start off, and I'll let you guys talk about the origin story of Oaklore.
Wow. It started about 55 feet from where we're sitting right now.
Yeah.
We're neighbors, and Tom has always been walking his kids to the bus stop. We moved in, and I started walking my kids to the bus stop, and we were walking together. Started chatting. Realized that we both liked whiskey quite a bit, and hung out at the bus stop, and that became a great friendship. Neighbors, and then that's sort of where it all began. Our story then developed to us realizing that we were both not only whiskey passionate people, but we were just absolute whiskey nerds. I mean, we love whiskey. We love how it's made. We love understanding mash bill and temp and yeast and all the things that make whiskey what it is. And so we were sitting up on Tuesday nights, and we called it Tuesday drinking because everybody gets together on Tuesdays and drinks, right? That's pretty normal,
Yeah, totally.
right?
It's normal.
I think it's normal.
We have normalized it.
It's normalized now. That's right. It's exactly right. But we started out by doing blind tastings because we thought that was really fun. So I would bring something in, Tom would bring something in, and he would have to try the stuff that I brought and vice versa. And we started out by kind of figuring out which one was the Irish whiskey, the Scotch, the bourbon, the American whiskey, or the rye whiskey, those kind of things. And then we kind of graduated from there to figuring out a little bit more about what kind of bourbon it was. Was this a wheated bourbon? Was this a rye bourbon? Then we started getting into like actual learning and understanding mash bills, trying to pick out a mash bill on the palate, and then state of distillation, age, all those kind of things. And so we would kind of test each other. And this happened for a while. We didn't realize that we thought we were just kind of hanging out, having fun, but what we realized now is we were really training our palate to understand how whiskey really works and what makes it wonderful and beautiful in all the ways that it is. And we started studying those variables. And it was late one Tuesday night, and this happened.
Yeah, late one Tuesday night. I'm a builder for many years, and I spent some time, doing a little bit of brewing. So I kind of had some leftover equipment that I hadn't touched in many years, and thought, well, goodness, I mean, Matt, I can build a still. We can just do this. And Matt, with the look in his eyes of, I'm not sure why you waited 4 years to tell me this, said, well, let's do that. And so that's sort of began what started to be this passion of Oaklore. We spent all those years sort of building to a point where we understood what our passion was, not only as a company, but also as what we wanted to produce. I mean, we had a goal early on that if we could make a whiskey that would be our house whiskey, that if we went to our cabinets of whiskey, whether it's whichever cabinet it is, whether it's in the basement or
the
in
bedroom cabinet
or the kitchen cabinet,
the basement cabinet, the man
yeah,
cave cabinet, the outdoor kitchen
whichever
cabinet.
cabinet you would go to, we wanted to make sure and produce a whiskey that's the one we wanted to drink at that time. We all have a lot of whiskey, but can we make something that we love so much that it is our house whiskey, and that's the one we pour? And that was a goal. That was our mission.
And I was going to ask this question later, but I think it fits well now, which is you did some stuff with taking basically moonshine or unaged liquor with unaged whiskey and testing it out with different barrels and finishes and stuff like that. It made me wonder, North Carolina being a control state, how much did you find in the state to do that? And how much did you have to go to surrounding states to source those things?
Source what things?
Oh, to find like more.
I don't think we're winking at you.
Yeah.
Man, this is easy to find. Easy to find.
And you know what we learned is how we wanted to make it.
Mhm.
And And that was a big part of our journey. What mash bill we wanted to use to make it, what we wanted to do once we made it. We experimented in so many different ways. Matt talked about being whiskey nerds and just it being a passion. And we spent a lot of time, what kind of finishes work well and with weeded bourbon, and what kind of finishes work well with rye, and what kind of finishes do we love and are we passionate about. So we spent a lot of that time experimenting, not only to understand what happens, but also to know what we loved. And we did that sort of without even knowing that that was going to be decisions we were going to have to make in the future, which was incredible. It was sort of amazing. I think I said this a long time ago when we were in the beginning. I was like, man, it's amazing how we are just ready at the time we have to make the decision, and we just know what decision to make. Not that we knew every decision, because there's a million questions flying at you at 100 miles an hour, but we kind of built into it and took it a step at a time, and we were excited about every step and the next step, and every little bit of work we did, and every late night till 2 a.m. we spent helped us. It was good work.
Yeah, it was
good work.
It was work. We were
Yeah.
working. We didn't realize at the time.
Yeah.
But I think one of the interesting things we really fell in love with what the wood does to the distillate and how that interacts, different toast levels, different char levels,
Yeah.
different amounts of wood in terms of, being able to double oak or trying a French oak, or in our case, we put together a Prohibition era oak where we had staves that were harvested during the Prohibition, and seeing how those interacted differently. And so we really kind of studied that, and we thought, ultimately the story of the stave matters, right? In that distillate, you can do all kinds of variables to get it there, but the one who really gets the final word ultimately is that barrel. You could have the exact same distillate go into 50 different barrels, and you're going to have 50 different single barrels of whiskey. And that's really fun. It's organic material, right? So it takes a life of its own and tells its own story. And ultimately, that's really where the name of our company came from, Oaklore. We think that oak stave has a story to tell. And that's really where the passion began.
I gotta say, I love the name. When we were first introduced online, the name just caught my eye in the subject of the email, and it's one of those things I'm kind of amazed no one had gotten to before you guys got to. But hey, you won it, so fair and square. I had two questions that just came to mind. The first one was the question of prohibition. So again, North Carolina is a control state, and that's vestige of prohibition. So I'm curious how much in your like just growing your palates, developing the idea for the business and distillery and all this, how deep you went into like North Carolina's history of distilling pre and post prohibition.
Well, I wish I had time to go into every state's history because it's fascinating. I wish that we could have spent more time with North Carolina's history, because it's just the beginning. And we got hit so early with solve this problem, solve that problem, and you know what, learn the whole federal government's regulations and make sure you do that right, because then you don't want to get shut down. And oh yeah, you have to add in all the state regulations so you don't get shut down. So we were extremely passionate about it, but we followed it a lot. North Carolina is a hotbed for whiskey. It absolutely is. It's the stop right before the Appalachian Mountains. So as everything was moving west, we had a big stop right here, and this was one of the first areas before people made it into and over the Appalachian Mountains. So we have a long history here in North Carolina of whiskey, and an early history. So it's super exciting to be part of that, at least a little bit, and being in a state that produces great whiskey. That's also something that we're very, very proud of and excited about.
For sure, we've had, trying to think off the top of my head, definitely one from North Carolina, maybe two. We had three from the Carolinas, kind of back to back to back, and for some reason I'm mixing up in my head who was in each state, but it was just a wonderful thing to talk to. I'm trying to hit every state on this podcast, and I'm about halfway there at this point. and the Carolinas hadn't been gotten to yet until just a couple months ago. So now I've got both Carolinas hit and North
So
Carolina too.
are you good looking for bourbon in every state or just whiskey or any distillation?
Whiskey doesn't
Whiskey,
have to be
okay.
bourbon, can be single malt, whatever. Like I've got a
Yeah,
lead on someone in Alaska, in Montana.
yeah, that's
Those are,
fun.
the hardest ones. Um,
Hawaii is going to be hard to get out of rum.
that's true. I have the rum in Hawaii. I do have a whiskey producer in Hawaii actually. I just have to find a connection. I think I have a connection, but I'll follow up with him. But so North Carolina too. So
Yeah, that's
That
required.
one you have to do in person, the one
Yeah.
in Hawaii.
oh yeah, absolutely. Business expense. That's why you form the LLC. Come on. With North Carolina, it's it was fascinating to look into just because before Piedmont in 2005, that was the first distillery that had made legal liquor in the state since Prohibition. And there, as we've seen with a number of other states, there were a lot of laws that had to be changed from zoning to distilling permits to everything you could think about. One of the more surprising ones, though, to me, was that North Carolina is the fifth largest market for liquor in the U.S. Now, is that not that necessarily matters, but is that by sales or volume?
That's probably a Jack question. I know Jack's listening in. He's kind of tracked all that, Jack.
I think what's crazy about this state is it has the sixth most distilleries in the country.
Yeah.
And we know it's a control state, but there is some advantages to North Carolina's control state, is it sort of equals the playing field for
Yeah, it does.
everybody. It gives small distilleries a chance to be on the shelf. And that's what's really great about it. That's the one advantage. And it puts everybody on not on equal footing, but it gives everyone an opportunity. And as we have started small and grown, in the state of North Carolina to something we're extremely proud of. We've used that as an opportunity to sort of get there, and then now we're taking traditional steps to get our whiskey out there. But in the beginning, I think the control state sort of helped. They had to bring it in and put it on the shelf, and then we were able to help build the brand from there. So it
That's what
is
we've heard.
it's a great state. We're very, very proud to be part of North Carolina. We tell the story a lot because our North Carolina rye is all North Carolina. It's the grains are grown in North Carolina, distilled in North Carolina, aged in North Carolina. So we're really, really proud of that. We are not from North Carolina, but we are North Carolina guys. I went to school here, went to college here, met my wife here, her family's from here. 2/3 of my kids were born here.
80% of my kids were born here.
80% of Matt's kids were born here. So we may not be from North Carolina, but we are North Carolina guys, and we're very, very proud of that, and we're excited about that because we talked about the history of whiskey in North Carolina, and what we didn't talk about is the conditions in North Carolina, especially in the Piedmont, which is where we're located. We're in this really great area between the coastal plains and the mountains, and the Piedmont just has incredible weather. Perfect conditions to age whiskey.
Yeah.
And we take advantage of that. So we're it produces great whiskey. It's whiskey we love, and whiskey we love to share.
Love it. And Jack did chime in. It's fifth largest by per capita, which still incredible. I don't know why I wouldn't think of it, but and just to your point too, I want to reiterate that when I was doing early episodes of this podcast and I started doing a couple in Pennsylvania, it being an adjacent state, easy to get to, easy to visit. I thought that it being a control state would be more difficult for the distilleries because just for whatever reason. I don't think I had a reason other than just ignorance at that point. But just like in North Carolina, it does have an advantage in that you can say, all right, there are 200 ABCs in North Carolina or Pennsylvania. We're a Pennsylvania distillery. We want to be on your store shelves. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to hit the states surrounding you, but it means that anywhere in the state, you can find your products. And that alone is going to kind of jumpstart you with the local market. So there are benefits that aren't necessarily seen in a non-control state, let's say like New York. But New York's its own beast. That's its own.
Yeah.
The next one is, so Matt, your background. So Tom, you said your background is in construction. You've been in that for about 20 plus years.
Yeah,
Not
I
to age you, I'm sorry.
graduated from Chapel Hill in biostatistics, and then went into construction and building, and did that for a long time. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Matt's way more exciting, so I'll keep my mouth shut, and then I'll let it go. I'll let the
uh,
story, and I'll just pour myself another drink.
well, so, and Matt is a Lutheran pastor. So the, I think one of the other things that I found really interesting in the history is that, Matt, you've said on other podcasts and interviews that the let's try that again. The Lutheran traditions and associated denominations don't view alcohol the same way. So when I was looking into prohibition a while back, the split was not really a political divide so much. It was really more of a religious divide in terms of which denomination was where. So, county by county, different states would have more of one or the other, and the ones who were Lutheran leaning tended to be slower on prohibition and not necessarily in favor of it because they.
That's true. Did you say that? Did you say that, or are you just saying that?
No, he's saying it. I was. This is.
I'm embellishing it, but I'm adding details to it. But Matt has said he did say, so I want to give him his credit on this, that in general that Lutherans did not view alcohol as evil, that monks have been making beer for hundreds of years in the tradition. So it's a very different mindset than the kind of Christian pro-temperance movement that we generalize. Having said that, I would love to know from you, Matt, if there was any hesitation or any kind of dissonance between being a pastor and the whiskey, or is it just seamlessly going together?
Well, there's a fun story behind this because our group of founders were all friends that we met. I met Tom as my neighbor, but our other founder, Travis, went to the church where I was pastoring, and we decided to start this men's group for men who hate men's groups. And the whole idea was just meet people where they were. And Tom and I were nerding out on bourbon. And I was like, Tom, would you come and just lead a tasting on Friday night, just whatever we've got to bring in. And we had a guy that was willing to donate all the bourbon. And so, we had all these really cool bottles that we'd bring in. And basically we just had a men's retreat that started off with tasting bourbon and talking about life around the tables. And it was a really laid back kind of group where we played paintball and ate barbecue and zip lines and stuff like that. But the point of the whole thing was to let people come and just be guys and hang out, talk together and form some relationships, because it's been said that Jesus' greatest miracle was having more than one good friend over the age of 30. So, I think it's hard for guys as they get older to have more than one good friend. So that's kind of the guide at that. But we started with bourbon, and we started around bourbon. And what we saw was, people engaged differently when they could sit around and talk about a bourbon first. And it opened doors to stories and people getting to know each other. And I think that was really kind of special for us because, Tom and I got to know each other and became incredibly good friends, hanging out over a whiskey and just talking life, talking kids, talking life. What does it mean to be a dad right now? And we both have a bunch of kids. And so we could share stories with each other. And my boys were older than his boys and his girls older than my girls. And so we had great advice for each other. Although I think his was best, is that you will make it through the teenage years, potentially. So you're gonna make it, but potentially. No, I'm just kidding. But
I'm sure, kind of.
I mean, it's plausible.
I mean, we'll hope so.
Yeah, we hope we make it out of the teenage girl years. But whiskey's never been a tough thing for me, man. We had beer fests and Oktoberfest and things like that when I was growing up. I loved Trappist monk ales and studied them back 20 years ago about how they were doing their processes, and even in seminary, understanding that that was a great way for monks to be able to provide for the monastery, and people love beer, and also it was healthier to drink than water for a long time, right? So they were doing a service to the community in a few ways, but no, never really any dissonance. I thought in the South, we'd run into some issues, and I remember when we put our place up and there's a church that's kind of like right down the street from us, and they sent us an email, and I was like, oh man, I know this is going to go poorly. It's going to be some kind of protest or something. I was kind of nervous about it because you're in the South, and sometimes people are a little bit over the edge of this stuff. And they were like, hey man, just wanted to say welcome to the neighborhood. We're super excited to hang out with you guys and wondering if we could come over and taste some product. I was like, all right, okay, we're in good shape. We're gonna make it.
Well, we're in the city of Charlotte, and it's a great city. Really, really supportive of all kind of businesses, and so that's really been helpful to us. And so I think that goes along with what you're saying is great city, great people.
Yeah.
Got to ask, what denomination was that church down the road?
Oh, I think they're non-denominational.
Okay, all right. So they get a pass. That's
I
okay.
Point not proven.
I think they're all kind of Baptist, but all right, whatever. That's good.
So before we get into the product, two more questions I have for you. First one was by the by the time you guys opened, there had been a bunch of legislative changes. Just, the fact you were able to open a distillery and sell product, although there was limits on it at first. What at this point in early 2025, let's say, what's some legislations or regulations that still need changing for your perspective?
Well, go ahead.
No, I think that I was going to start with the most important one that changed was in 2019. That's how we could have opened up a shop,
Yeah,
and that was the most important one. But
Yeah.
still need changing.
Yeah, breweries and wineries are able to do a few more things than we can. They're able to self-distribute. And I think that that's something that would be really helpful for our industry, especially for local producers. I mean, I think within the state, being able to, ship within the state, those things would be helpful. Deliver directly to mixed beverage clients. Those things would be great.
Taxing would be great, even if it was on proof gallons. I would love it to be the same.
Yeah,
It's just not. I mean,
yeah,
we can't put a 8% RTD in a grocery store next to an 8% malt beverage RTD. We're not allowed to sell in that grocery store. We're not allowed to sell anywhere but an ABC store. And I think proof gallon and ABV is the way to do that. There's just I think taxing is probably another good one that we would like to see the same.
Yeah, for sure.
I hear that. It's a common refrain in one way or another. So I hear you on that. There was one, let's say, vestigial legislation that helped in a way drive people to you, which is that at least as of October 2024, it was on the tortured bourbon, that on Sundays people couldn't buy alcohol from the ABCs, but they can buy from you.
Yeah, we changed our hours because of that. So it's been it doesn't keep the lights on, but we're glad to be open for the consumer and for our customers on Sunday. Happy to sell on Sunday, but yeah, that is a little bit of help.
Yeah, that 2019 legislation opened the door, and there's been some other things that have gotten loosened up, and we hope that that'll continue to happen. I mean, you never know what's going to bring it one way or the other, given the political climate and that we're in. But I will say that we've found that North Carolina legislators, there are some that are excited about trying to help us out generally, which is really great, and folks in our industry that are working hard to kind of bring those things to happen. So we're in a good place and at a good time, but I'm looking forward to potentially having more openings and availabilities for us.
For sure. So now we're getting into the realizing the product, let's say, and the product itself. So
tasting. We don't drink whiskey anymore. That's not anything that we do. We've retired from drinking whiskey. All we do now is taste whiskey
for hours.
Yep. As adults and mature individuals, we just taste whiskey.
That's right.
And
sometimes we say words and sometimes we don't.
Yep. And we taste whiskey sometimes till 2 a.m. But as professionals, we enjoy the taste.
And sometimes on Mondays.
And on Monday, cheers to Monday tasting.
Tuesdays and holidays.
Although,
what do you have? Do you have samples?
I do. I have.
Show us what you got. I want to see it.
Oh, I left the bottles out there, but I have the 4 grain and the rye.
Yeah, so our core products, we are super passionate about that. Those are the products we absolutely love. And if we could have anyone taste something of ours, those are the two that we would say, please just take a taste of these if you ever have an opportunity, because we think that really embodies us, it really showcases who we are. And so we're excited that you have those. And and let's get cracking. Let's do it. I want to see let me see the glass that you're drinking out of too. I want the whole experience. Are you drinking with us on the podcast, or are we drinking alone? I mean, we that's not new.
No, it's not.
Drinking alone for now, just because I have baby duty after this. But
Oh, okay.
Got it.
but I've tried the product twice now, because I always do twice. Even if I like it, try twice. Different, scenarios, different environments, different day that you've had before you try. So
Oh my gosh,
give it,
different palates. So with
yeah,
this, what we've learned is it doesn't matter. Your palate is always what it is. Good, bad, matured. It always is what it is. But depending on the time of day, depending on what you had to eat the day before and the day of, your palate will change. So your plan of always taste it twice is excellent. Matt and I have learned that at 2:30,
Yep.
2:33,
It's the witching hour.
no matter what you pour, it is amazing. So if we're trying to be critical, we're not drinking at 2:30 or 3, because boy, I tell you,
Just
that
tastes
is
good.
the best hour to drink whiskey. So
look, I tried the product. The first one was on the same night that I tried a 142.7 proof American whiskey.
you can't go back. That's something if you
Right.
drink,
So
it's tough to go back down. But you know what I have in front of us, Matt? So I have
Oh, the
our
same
three.
thing.
So if we're drinking, let's pour that so we can taste it as we're talking about it.
yeah,
Yeah, those two right on the top, right there. Both Oaklore glasses. Yeah, they're clean. Boom. So we have in front of us as well our distribution 92 proof Oaklore North Carolina straight rye whiskey. This is the one we were talking about. We're bourbon guys. We're just we love bourbon. We love our corn. America's whiskey. It's fascinating to us. But this is super exciting because, like I said, we are North Carolina guys. This is North Carolina grain, grown in North Carolina, distilled, and it is a passion for us, and we're super excited to showcase it. We think it has such a beautiful taste and character. It is 70% corn, 70% rye, 20% corn, because we love our corn, because we're bourbon guys, and then 10% malt. So 70, 20, 10, with the 70 being that North Carolina rye.
So cheers, David.
Yeah.
cheers.
Yeah. After baby duty.
After, actually, I have an RTD in front of me that I'm going to be probably pop. But it's not even going to show. There we go. So I'll cheers with that, because bad luck to cheers with an empty hand.
Good luck. Yep, right. Here we go.
So if you tasted this, tell us your notes on this rye. I love that you have it a couple of times, because you really do. And I'll tell you the other thing, and I don't need you to keep talking. You just tell me to shut it. But I love talking whiskey. I talk whiskey all night. Another thing that sometimes I have to do, and we have to do, but if we're struggling through something to really get an understanding of it, we will pour samples and take it home. And then I'm like, hey man, I just got to sit with it for a night. I need to put it in a glass. I need to let it be open. I need to just sort of have a couple tastes on it and sips on it while I'm sitting down and watching TV or doing something, or drink it throughout the night, just so I can have a true understanding of how that whiskey sits for the evening. And sometimes we have to do that. Yeah, hard job.
Hard job, guys.
Yeah.
Hard job, but someone's got to do it. I'll say from the start, I did enjoy both products quite a bit, but the rye was my favorite between the two. So I got a lot of evolution throughout this. It goes from, fruity to spicy to sweet. I wrote it keeps me on my toes. For 92 proof, it was very full bodied, which I appreciated. Like American whiskey can, you guys know, like under a certain proof point can just be very thin. Even if there's a lot of flavor there, it feels like there's too much water. So definitely didn't get that. There was a lot of full body. It would stand up in ice to a cocktail. I actually wrote that I'm not sure this needs more proof. Sometimes I drink something and it's not watery, but like the flavor isn't quite where I want it to be in terms of power. This one was right on. So
So that's a great compliment to hear.
That's great.
I really, that I'm gonna take that as a great compliment because
Yeah.
we really appreciate that.
absolutely. I mean, just some of the fruits, like, sugared pineapple, wild strawberries, dried papaya. I did know that for a 70% rye, like this was very uh soft in terms of spices. Like the spice level, the baking spices that you sometimes get from rye, black pepper, cinnamon, all those were there, but they were very controlled.
You know
You know,
why?
well, because you're weeder guys.
Because this is a bourbon drinker's rye.
It's a bourbon
Exactly.
drinker's
Yeah.
rye. Yeah. It's that 20% corn that really brings that. I think that brings that sweetness and it nuances the spice of the rye. But there's another thing that we do. We practice a lower entry proof typically. So we're not throwing whiskey in at 120 plus. People are doing that. That's fantastic. We tend to go lower, and that ends up giving us a little bit more well-rounded product, and that brings that full bodied nature all the way through at that lower proof, and that was by design.
Absolutely. I noted that and I love that. I love the lower entry proofs. And for the let's see. I'm rereading my notes too because I hadn't memorized them quite yet. But yeah, the mouthfeel's oily and coating. Mouthfeel's a big thing for me. That's going to be the biggest determinant of whether I like something is mouthfeel. And I think it sits in a nice, like real sweet spot of it's not the 95.5 that's super dilly or super herbal, which has its place. And it's also not the barely legal ryes that are basically bourbon. Um, it's this is a rye when you drink it. It's got the rye,
Okay.
some of the rye spices, even if they're a little
Okay.
calmer than they would normally be sometimes in like a 95.5, they're there. The fruits I normally associate with a rye are there, and even a little hint of mint there. The black licorice on the back end, the really like sweet black licorice, not the super sharp ouzo kind of black licorice. Although I love both, to be honest. This just was rounded. It yeah, to me it hit all the right notes. And the thing that I was thinking about is, so it's a bourbon drinker's rye, and the rye is where it's also, this is your like North Carolina statement. It's North Carolina grain, uh, or North Carolina rye, I should say. I want to is all the grain North Carolina or just
Yeah,
the rye?
the malt is not, but the corn and the
Yeah.
rye.
Okay, I know the malt is like
That's the
the
wild
hardest
card.
one. Yeah, it's the
Yep.
wild card. But you got 90% of the grain in there is from North Carolina. And to me, when you're starting a distillery and you guys, like you said, you're clearly passionate about whiskey. And I was kind of fascinated that the rye was my favorite of the two, just because I had heard you guys were more like bourbon side, more weeded bourbon in particular was kind of your go-to, if you will. And instead, the rye was amazing. The four grain was great too. Don't get me wrong, but even the four grain was a four grain, not a weeded, and had that little bit of rye in there.
That's
So
true.
I wanted to take this back to kind of some of your inspirations. So I heard in the research, at least, uh, Charlie and Andy Nelson, uh,
Yeah.
Drew Colesveen at Willett, John Hargrove, who was at Bardstown and now he's at Whiskey House of Kentucky, Chad Slagle at Two Trees, and to a lesser extent, I think I'll get to that in a minute, Mark Carter over at Old Carter. Um, and I think the Old Carter one was more of a reference to how the different batches are going to have slightly different profiles. So that's kind of, it was referencing back to how theirs kind of does that. But so let's stick with the other names. Andy Nelson has been on the podcast. I haven't had John Hargrove on, but I've had Bardstown Bourbon on several times. I talked to David Mandel. So we've got the mindset. These are people who clearly are not afraid to take chances in whiskey and play around. And particularly with the Nelson brothers and their Belle Meade line, which I think I saw they just bought back that brand
That's
and are
correct.
relaunching it. So, which is very cool. Um, I noted that in addition to your core products, you've got a finishing series. And in looking at the finishes, you've got, the port wine, the honey, Merlot finish. Um,
Hmm.
to me, that it screamed inspiration from the Belle Meade line because I mean, when they had that honey barrel releases, that brand just blew up. So I say all this to ask, how do you feel the inspirations that you went to and tasted and talked to during your startup phase? How are they still influencing your decisions when it comes to product?
Oh man, we
Well, I don't know if it was influencing the products. Matt and I are pretty excited about pushing that. I think what all those people did for us in the startup phase was just that. Get us started.
oh
We
yeah,
just that the information that we needed to get started. Starting a distillery is not easy.
no,
It is problem after problem. It is solve this after solve this. And the fact that Charlie and Andy would even talk to us,
yeah,
much less let us in their place and walk us
yeah.
around, was just such an amazing opportunity. And it may not have been the products, and you can say
Mhm.
how you sell you tell the story how you know, but I think that those people helped us get to where we could even open the doors.
Yeah, I would agree.
And all that information got us to open the that's the hardest part. The whiskey is the fun part.
Yeah,
The distillery and the business, that is the hard part.
yeah,
Um, and those everyone you mentioned, and I mean, we had Hargrove in our shop and
mhm,
helping us before we even got the doors open.
yeah,
And without that, we wouldn't be here today. So opening the distillery is what all of those people helped us achieve. And they're so open and willing to help, which is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And I think everyone just wants the entire industry to do well.
yeah,
The whiskey sort of that's the part you get to own.
yeah,
That's the part you really
yeah.
get to be excited about and own.
Those guys helped us
Finishing
with.
isn't new.
Yeah,
Finishing
no,
is crazy. People finishing just crazy things. Matt and I have our own path and plan, and it's fun.
yeah. Those guys were great. I mean, it was great to be able to sit with folks that knew a ton about the industry and were able to help us, advance months of research in half an hour. And that was incredibly helpful. I mean, we were just texting with Andy last week, and John Hargrove last week as well, and Chad Slagle's one of our neighbors over here in Western North Carolina, who's just a brain when it comes to interesting processes. And those are folks that have been great to us, all the way through. Even just being able to text Drew out of the blue and ask him a question is pretty incredible. So and Dave Mandel is another one. As you mentioned his name, he's been a good friend of the brand as well. And so we just found that across the board, people are willing to sit and talk. Distillers
Yeah.
are willing to share information, and we've been really encouraged by that practice, because that's not the case in most industries. It's kind of odd. I think sort of took us, both hit
Yeah.
us off guard, because we were like, wait a minute, so we're invited to their place. I mean, we were having conversations with these guys and years ago, and they were in the midst of their bourbon boom, and then and they still took the time for us. That means a lot to us.
Yeah. But the whiskey industry is extremely difficult. Um, the finishing part, I think that's the creativity that each distillery can put a little twist on
Yeah,
and do. And there's so many different ways and avenues to create that. Ours is a little different. We made some really great relationships with some wineries, and we sort of hand pick barrels and physically pick them up from wineries and fill those so that we can manage that entire process when we release a finish. But
well, our port finish, which is available online still right now,
yeah,
our port finish has a pretty personal story to us, and Tom and his wife's background and time that they spent in Florida, and then fast forward to our families going vacation together. But we really fell in love with San Sebastian winery down there and the port that they make, and have a great relationship with them where they're willing to trade barrels with us. And what's really fun is that when you go down there and you do the fancy tour, upstairs tour, they take you in the back, and it's just littered with Oaklore barrels behind the bar, which is really cool. So, but that's more of a personal for us. I mean, I kind of glazed your story, but it's true. It's a really cool story background.
So I was planning to bring up the San Sebastian connection a little bit later, but let's jump on it right now, just because I think sequentially the episode before you guys is going to be with St. Augustine Distillery.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Who also, they're like 2 blocks from San Sebastian. They use the port barrels as well.
So they use San Sebastian as well. We have gone down and we have met with the St. Augustine folks. They have a great system. We have a really, really good relationship with them. St. Augustine's been a really great part of my life. My grandparents moved there in the 80s. My wife and I moved down there 1990. Our daughter was born there, and we started our life there. That was a big part of my wife and I's beginning of our family. And then, Matt and I go down there and share these experiences and literally drive down there and pick barrels and change barrels and bring them back up. And if you want an experience and you want to compare whiskeys, it's great. Drink their port finish and drink our port finish and compare. We would love that. That's amazing. Whiskey's amazing and it's super fun. And so everyone should be trying to do stuff like that.
Yeah,
I think they're sending me some of the port finish, so I'll hold you to that if you don't mind.
Yeah, we need to send you some of the ports so you can compare them together.
Absolutely. No.
Yeah, I think we need to do that. Jack, are you taking notes?
Jack,
you got to put
that
on the list.
Yeah. Having said that, I gotta bring up something. I don't remember which one of you gentlemen said it, but it was said on the North Carolina Food and Beverage Pod, January 2024.
Okay. Yeah.
One of you said, well, nobody wants bourbon from Florida.
Who said that?
Who said that's crazy?
That, you know why? Because everybody wants bourbon from North Carolina.
That's right.
All right. It's a good cover. We'll take that. But someone said it. So, and I was going to bring up the San Sebastian, St. Augustine. So if you know the St. Augustine guys already, that's great. They were great to talk to. I love, tasting their stuff too. But
I bet that was one of the food and beverage guys that said that. We wouldn't say that. We're to blame them.
We would say everyone wants North.
Well, they haven't invited us back, so they must have said it. Yeah.
Fair enough.
No, I think there's definitely some interesting things that happen. Like when you're in states that are as hot as Florida and Texas, there's a lot more variation in that whiskey, and I think there's a palate that really loves that. And we've seen that, especially with the love for things that are coming out of Florida and things that are coming from Texas. I think one of the things that makes North Carolina special is the Piedmont spends way more time in the ideal aging temperatures, right? The humidity levels are the right thing, and that really helps the whiskey to do better. Kentucky plains are great. Tennessee hills are fantastic, but North Carolina Piedmont even spends less time below 40 degrees than Kentucky. And when it's below 40 degrees, it just doesn't do as much, and it sort of freezes, and you sort of lose that time. In the Piedmont here, it doesn't spend as much time below 40, and it also doesn't spend as much time above 90, right? And I think that's really helpful for our aging processes, and so we'll claim that. Yeah, I mean, I'm a Tennessee Vols guy, so I probably said nobody wants anything from Florida. So there you go.
I see you worked that in there.
Yes, there it goes.
Another great cover.
Good old Rocky Top, baby.
That is funny. That is good. I like that one.
That was well done. I got to give it to you. That was well done. So we've talked about the rye. Got to jump back to the 4-grain, your other core. We got 72% corn, 11% wheat, 10% rye, 7% malted barley. And you got, besides the fact of the 4-grain, which is, it's definitely something more on the craft side. Like the big guys aren't really doing it, and it's a great way for smaller distilleries and ones getting up on, what am I trying to say? I haven't had anything to drink and I can't think of what I'm trying to say. Who are trying to get on their feet. There we go. That, it matures differently. And
sure.
the on the bourbon podcast. Also, there's also January 24. I think you guys did like a burst of stuff early in the year, and it all kind of came out at once. Said that you're not aging a 4 grain bourbon all at the same time for its entire maturation. You're taking a rye bourbon and a wheated bourbon, aging them separately because the grains are going to peak at different times, and then eventually
Exactly.
you blend them together at the right point and let them mature another 6 to 8 months or so. Uh,
So,
where did that idea come from, and the development of that product?
well, it's a little bit of two things. One, um, nobody else was doing that. Nobody else was taking those barrels and then re-barreling them, bringing the 4 grains together that way. I think that was kind of interesting to us, but all in all, we found that like I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I love to cook. And I love to cook. When I'm not making whiskey with Tom, I'm cooking, smoking meat, making something. And one of the things that I think is important is when the ingredients come together and they have time to sort of sit together, instead of just rushing it out and just throwing a bunch of garlic on it and then you eat it. When you give those ingredients time to really work together, they start to come together in a way that makes the story even more beautiful. I mean, that's part of our name, right? I mean, that's where it came from. Is this, if you look at our logo, I think there's one right behind us. If we lean a little bit, it's a couple of staves, and then those staves develop into a much bigger story as they start to come together. It's a recipe in the barrel from those barrel staves, but that's what those grains do. They start to work together, and
blending those barrels together is an art.
mhm.
Proofing down is an art. You don't just add specific kinds of water. You do it in a way that it affects and changes how the whiskey comes together. And it's not just throwing ingredients in a pot. It's cooking. And so when you create a whiskey, it's about doing these things and controlling the parameters that are most important to you.
Mhm.
So, what kind of water do you use to proof down? How quickly do you add the water? At what temperature do you add the water? Um, which barrels do you use? When we re-barrel, what barrels do we re-barrel in? Do we re-char? Do we re-age at specific for specific time? It is there's a lot of factors in there. Whiskey is fascinating because of that. There's so many factors and there's so many parameters. And so we focus on the things that we think are important and things that produce the best whiskey for us. Um and so yeah, we that's what we do. We pick those things and we think that when we put that whiskey together and we let it age together, it produces a really, really great rounded product. Rounded is the word I would use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what sets us apart, David. There are a lot of folks that just, they kind of live in a story, which is we've done this one thing and this is the one thing we done, and we do that for 60, 70 years. It's what we do. We find that the barrels have such a unique story to them that, there's folks that'll charcoal filter and try to pull the palate out. There are folks that'll just throw these massive 100,000 gallons, not 100,000 gallons, but tons of gallons of a tank, and hoping that they can keep some kind of consistency because they have a customer base that just wants, I want to go and pick that bottle up, I want to be exactly the same every single time. Well, whiskey has a story to it, and we're okay with that story having some movement and some chapters. And ours is going to be consistently quality. That's what we know. It's going to have a deep palate. It's going to be a well-rounded whiskey. You're not going to walk away from buying our bottle and be upset about it. And that's important to us, is that we tell that story well. And so that's really where that process came from. Although we can't tell you all the ins and outs of it, because then we wouldn't really have a job anymore. I guess somebody would figure it out. But we feel like it is an art. We take it very seriously. It has to be of a particular a level before it even goes out. If it doesn't hit Tom and my palate the right way, it doesn't go out.
We have to love it.
We taste every single barrel that comes out. Again, hard job, by the way. We taste every single barrel that comes out, and we categorize where they're going to go and how they're going to fit in the process. And that's what I think makes this a really high quality, high end bourbon.
So you guys came out of the gate swinging. You opened to the public in 2023. Is that right?
2022.
Yeah.
22. So you came out swinging with the 4 grain bourbon, which was 4 to 6 years and the rye being 6+ years. So, we're not hiding anything with math here. Obviously,
Well,
it,
the rye is 6+ now.
6+ now.
Yeah, it's back then it was when we started. We would go to distillery after distillery and ask questions, and you mentioned the names, and there was even more distilleries than that. We would travel almost every other weekend. We would be on the road, and we found a number of great distilleries that would let us use their equipment. We even now are partnering with a distillery that lets us go there and use their equipment to make our stuff. I mean, that's unheard of. But back then, man, I say this story all the time. Back then we put everything together we had and made a rye. And had we known then what we know now, like the fact that we opened up a shop,
would have made 50 to 100 times more.
absolutely. And we just didn't know that. And we was everything we had. And so we laid down what we could and thinking it'd be a fun story.
Yeah.
And
we sort of figured we'd just be a little.
Yeah, our plans in the
little
beginning have
shop for
changed
fun.
from what we thought.
Right.
We thought we would start one place, and so we ended up in another direction, which has been great. But yeah, we only laid down just a fraction of what we should have back then. But that rye wasn't 6 then.
No,
When
it was
we
like
opened up.
it was
like
4,
4.5
yeah,
or
it
something.
was, yeah,
because
just
that's all
over
we
4.
had. That's in fact that's the first thing we released in our shop was the rye, because that's what we started.
Yeah, and so fast forward 2.5 years, now it's 6.5, 6 plus.
Yeah.
Same thing with the whiskey. It was all 4. Now it's 4 to 6 because we've got older barrels.
Yeah.
I mean,
we had the stores. We had some great distilleries and areas that we found our love and passion, and some that were never even opened, and we were able to find some barrels that were very unique, and those are the only ones we were searching for, and so we were able to find that and build the bourbon that we loved, and so that's how we started with the bourbon on that side.
Yeah.
I think I heard one of the stories was that there was a distillery that, as you said, it either opened or had not really opened for a long time. It had 200 barrels or something, and
only 120.
Yeah, it was just one.
And like they never opened, so you were able to secure some or all of those barrels.
Yeah, it's super fun with the connections that we've made over the years. We got a play at them, which was super exciting because it was a distillery that never opened up.
Yeah.
So we have these barrels that were built and made in a distillery and never opened, and so they were never actually released or put in a product or anything. And we super low entry proof. Yeah. And we were able to use those, and then we still have our stock of our bourbon is from that. So it's really fun that's how we began.
Yeah, and the fast forward now is that that still is back up and running, and we're able to lay down a bunch of our new product on that same still from the original barrels that we got. So it's pretty exciting for us because it has a really unique character that it brings, and I think it's been something that we've kind of fallen in love with and been able to utilize in our batch process.
That's awesome. I heard that story. It was like, I got to bring that up because it's unique for sure.
Whiskey is fun.
Yeah,
it's just
fun. Yeah,
it's fun and exciting, and it's just fun, and it should be.
Yeah, exactly. So you used the word chapters earlier, and the Oaklore story is going to have many chapters going forward. Some of those chapters that have already kind of come and gone or are still open are, as you were saying, different sister stills is the phrase that I kept hearing, that have allowed you to either go in or purchase barrels that you've really liked in different situations at various times. Or Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia came up once, but only once, so I wasn't sure about it. But I'm curious what, like, the snapshot in time today, end of March 2025. You don't have to reveal the stills, obviously. Like, I'm not asking you to break anything like that. But can you tell us the states that you're distilling in?
Kentucky and North Carolina.
Yeah, Kentucky, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Okay. We did some experiments in Tennessee. We did an experiment in Virginia, and part of that was just to see how those would turn out. Yeah. They're a little bit different terroir, and that's kind of fun to try something new and different. But the mainstays that we've got are Kentucky and North Carolina.
Yeah.
Awesome. You got long-term partnerships, so you don't have to worry about switching things up too much.
Oh, I mean, we love the idea of keeping things as consistent as possible. We know in the whiskey world that Matt even mentioned earlier, every barrel is different. It's super hard to have the
Yeah.
consistency, but the profile is really important to us.
Yeah, it's got to hit the right way. And and like we talked about, that's one of the things that makes us different. If if it comes out as Oaklore, Matt and Tom put it out. It's important to us that that's the case. It's not some conglomerate. We didn't bring in MGP. We didn't buy, George Dickel barrels, although I mean, I know a lot of folks are doing that and they're doing some neat things with it. Our story is it comes through this bottleneck. And if it takes longer to come out, so be it. If it's not the right thing, we gotta do something else, put it back in the rick house. So be it. It has to be right. It has to be of our palate. And so folks that have a similar palate to us are going to like our stuff, I think. And that's hopefully there's a lot of people that have a similar palate to us. But that's what makes this thing tick. And we have a great team around us. We have great ownership team. We're proud of what we're doing. But it has to be right. And if Tom and I don't like it, he doesn't go out. And if somebody has a bottle in their place, they order one online. We tasted it. It came through us. We approved it.
We didn't taste that bottle.
We didn't taste that bottle. We didn't drink from that bottle.
So
we
let's
should
be
be clear
clear.
about that. We don't open your bottle, take a swig, cork it, and then send it to you.
Right.
Because I think I'm important
I
to
mean,
say
I'm just
that.
making
Just
sure.
If they open the bottle, it's not going to be 725 in there or something. Yeah.
Well, we didn't taste your bottles either. But every product that we send out,
No,
before
we
it
make
hits the
sure we
bottle,
love it.
it's something that we gotta love.
Yeah.
Not just say it's good enough. It doesn't work.
All right. In mid 2024, you guys underwent an expansion.
Yep, that's correct.
But
Got a
That's-
new 6,000 square foot, 4-acre plot next to you. So I know you have plans for it. What's come so far?
Yeah, so that actually started way earlier. We opened up in 22 and knew immediately we needed more space.
yeah,
We knew we needed more parking. We knew we needed more production ability. And so we immediately started working on that. It opened up that we could actually start moving into it in 2024. But boy, we worked on that almost from day one to have
That's
that
right.
extra space. So
that's right.
we knew we had to expand and build and grow. And so we were lucky enough and fortunate enough to be able to buy the property that was next to us, and it was a 6,000 square foot space. And so we were able to begin production all in that space, and that helped us fuel ABC, helped us fuel our shop, and everything we wanted to do. So we are able to do our processing. We dump our barrels there. We fill our barrels there. We have a bottling bay where we do all of our bottling. Incredible bottling system that saves us so much time and money from the beginning. And we have a shipping bay, and then we have a transitional barrel storage bay. So we will ship in about 200 barrels, store them in that section while they're being used for whatever product we choose. Those are the times we have to taste those barrels and know where they go, and that's what that space is. That space has been what has allowed us to get it in front of you and get you to be able to try it and taste it and get into the stores in North Carolina and e-com. You can buy our stuff online. So that is what allowed us to grow to this point.
David, you this will be something that we'll say on your podcast that nobody has had on their podcast before. So then other podcasters are going to reference your podcast. Are you ready? So in this production building, Thomas is like, "What are you about to say?" In this production building, putting all the pieces together was incredibly hard. We put a state-of-the-art bottling line in. We have a better bottling line, bigger bottling line than a lot of distillers out there. We're very proud of it, and it changed our production ability. But to feed that line, we had to have a tank that would fit in our space and would fit in the number of barrels that we had. And so we started researching tanks that we could put a ton of barrels into. All of them were vertical tanks, and they were way too tall for our facility. We were going to have to either set the thing outside, or we're going to have to take the ceiling out and build some sort of contraption roof and all this other stuff. And it just wasn't going to work. So we started researching, and we actually found horizontal tanks that were from the dairy industry back in the Midwest. And so we finally found this massive tank and had to get shipped out on the back of a dude's pickup truck when it was crazy.
Yeah, it's a huge flatbed.
It's huge flatbed. You had to pull these massive, we had to buy forks that were long enough to bring
Yeah.
it in
Yeah.
and get it into one of our bays so that we could bring it in. So you talk about the interesting challenges of being a distillery and what you've got to figure out. I had a buddy of mine a long time ago. You heard the expression, think outside the box, right? Think outside the box. Don't get stuck in the box. And he was like, no, the best professionals are the ones that can think inside the box. What's the box that you got to work with, and how do you make that work? And I think if there's anything that Tom and I have found that we excel at over the years, it's thinking inside the box. We can figure out how to make it work
with the parameters
that we have in place. And so there's a fun fact for you, David, that nobody else has heard about. That our tank is a horizontal tank that we had to ship in from the Midwest U.S. just to have anything that could hold the amount of barrels that we wanted.
Matt has mentioned 500 of the problems that we have to solve of the 2 billion.
Of the 2 billion.
Yeah.
One of the interviews had just they used the phrase puzzle after puzzle after puzzle.
Puzzle after puzzle. Solve this in order to be able to solve the next one.
That's right.
And that's what we do. We solve one problem in order to solve the next problem. And we never stop solving problems, which means we get to stay open and we get to share our whiskey with people. And that's the goal.
That's the goal.
There we go. So just based on size of the space alone, you have this now huge former dairy tank that's in the 6,000 square foot space. You have the bottling line. For the moment, most of the maturation is happening offsite, right?
In Kentucky and North Carolina, right?
Kentucky,
yeah. So we
have
a house that we have in North Carolina and in Kentucky. And those aged there. We will be. Our plans are to move all of those barrels to the Piedmont, because all of our barrels spend time aging in the Piedmont. So we try to get them here to age. And what we're going to start doing now that we have the ability is to age all of our barrels, the ones that even aren't at this point, to even begin their aging in the Piedmont. So we will be filling our barrels and be aging them in the Piedmont.
How many barrels can we fit in our transitional warehousing space here? 80, 200?
Yeah.
200?
Yeah, completely full. And at any given time, I'm around 120, 100, something like that.
Yeah,
but I can chalk it full around 200.
So we pull our barrels in for a transitional stage.
Yeah.
While they're here. And
Well, you have that 6 to 8 months where the you're taking the two types of bourbon together, let it rest and marry, or whatever word people are using at the moment.
Typically between 12 months and 2 years.
That's right.
12 and 24 months typically. And we don't know whether that grows or that stays the same. That's going to be a decision that we make in the future.
That's right.
There'll be some tasting involved with that decision.
We may have to do some tasting.
There'll be tasting involved.
David, when you come to North Carolina, we're gonna do some tasting.
There's some tasting involved.
Absolutely. I'm loving it. So just in the last 15 minutes or so we've got, I always end on a question about legacy, because I'm become very interested in that. I don't know if it's because I had a kid and now I'm thinking about that more, but I want to end on that question. But before we get there, on Bourbon Showdown, I think this might have been Jack actually saying this, so take this for what you will. All three of you were on it, but might have been Jack saying it. You were relaying a story about, it was two stories. The first one was when you met Charlie Nelson, and you were asking him questions, and he's like, "You guys are not the typical people. Like, what are you really trying to get at?"
So literally, what are you doing here?
What are you doing?
You're not asking the normal
questions. Is not normal.
He was like, "You need to talk to my brother."
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
right. So that was the one story. Then the other one was that you guys were doing a tasting yourselves, and people started asking about your entry proofs and these quote unquote nerdier details that guys like us love to ask about. I was in looking back, pre-COVID, which seems like so long ago now, when you're thinking of starting this distillery, a lot of the distilleries that have started in like the last 10 years, let's say 10 to 15 years, have a much more educated and just aware base of consumers. Like, they want to know what your mash bill is. They want to know where you're aging your yeast. Like the questions I'm asking you now, they want to know that before they even buy the bottle. And I'm curious, from your perspective of, what was it like building a distillery knowing that people would want to know this information, and that in a way you had to be as transparent as possible just because people were going to ask those questions.
I never thought about it. I did the thing. When I was making decisions, I made the decisions that I knew were right for the whiskey that we wanted to make.
That's the answer.
And then we would answer whatever questions after that. That's kind of where,
Yeah,
I mean, do we think?
I think because we're kind of nerds already, it's fun to talk about. So we're like, well,
Yeah.
what's the deal with all the secrets, man? Just talk about what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's kind of, there's no way that anybody, even if you told me what the mash bill is of a Maker's Mark or Weller's or something like that, there's no way that you can remake that.
No.
They're still as important.
Their
barrels
parameters and
they're
the way they have it,
all
yeah.
the things are important on how they do what they do. So, you know, we
Yeah.
kind of thought it's fun to talk about and share that stuff. And
Making the whiskey that we wanted to make was the most important.
yeah,
Putting the good juice in the bottle is the most important. So whatever decision had to be made to get there was the decision we made.
100%.
All right. With let me just find my question. There it is. I know what I want. So, as I mentioned, we were talking before recording, I'm a nonprofit fundraiser by day. So, this piqued my interest as something that you guys do that I love. So, I wanted to just highlight it, which is your Angel Barrel program.
Yeah.
So, this is a charity program, about 3 per year. Get to, well, I can describe it, but I'll let you guys kind of talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the short version is for us is that being an organization that's in a community, you can't say you're in a community unless you're not part of it, unless you're investing in it, right? You can't be part of a community if you're not going to invest in it. And so our partnership team, we've decided to spend benevolent dollars to do some things. One of those is our Angel Barrel program. We've got one of those coming out again pretty soon this year. We spent some time doing an empty the shelves for Carolina. Right after Hurricane Helene, I think we were able to raise like $50,000 for Western North Carolina. We just did a program where we were the sponsor at Autism Strong here in Charlotte, and I think we raised about 150,000 of their 650. I mean that's important to us. Is how do we connect with people and remember what made us who we are? I mean, we were. One of the early stories in our whole thing was this, this men's group. And we had one of the guys in the men's group that was going through a particularly kind of crazy time. We kind of surrounded him and lifted him up. And he sent a text to us around Christmas time, a number of years ago, and said, hey guys, I just want to thank you so much for being a part of my life. But I've decided it's done and I'm going to end my life today. And all of us that were in that group went running to sort of be there with him, talk to him, make sure he was safe. He's doing a lot better now and he's back on his feet. But it's a constant reminder about what made you who you are. What made us who we are is community, it's relationships, it's people. We've got an amazing staff, people that work with us. They're incredible at what they do. We have great partners in our team. But it's important to us that we do something with the platform that we have. If we have a platform at all, I don't think we have much of a platform, but what we do have, we decided that we were going to use it to do good stuff, not just make good whiskey, but do good stuff.
If a charity is interested in becoming part of the Angel Barrel program, they just reach out to you guys.
Yeah, they have to be local because we have some rules here in North Carolina that our bottles to be sold out of our shop. So typically that's a local nonprofit.
So I love it. I appreciate greatly, as like I said, it's my day job, that when companies use those, as you said, Matt, benevolent dollars. I like that phrase. So looking forward, next, you've got your first expansion under your belt. You've got a giant tank you can now use. You're planning to move your maturation closer, and you're already using North Carolina grains as much as you can. What do the next 5-10 years look like?
Wow, great question. We want to continue to see this brand grow. We would like to continue to saturate our state. You can't you can't go out, start selling your products all over the place unless you own your state. And if our state doesn't know who we are, we're slacking, and that's no good. So we're going to saturate the state. We'll push into South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, all those states as we can regionally. Um, and this is the stage of life now, David, where distributors come calling and they want to work with us and start distributing our product, and we're excited about that step. Our e-com is taken off. We're going to be in the Flaviar calendar, Advent calendar this upcoming
Nice.
Christmas.
We can't tell them what that.
We can't.
No,
Oh,
because
okay.
it's blind.
Oh, it's blind. Yeah, that's
They
right.
don't know as you like.
That's
they have
right.
the ability to do it blind. So you
I'm
can't
glad
say
you caught me.
I was about because I would have said it. I know.
Oh, you guys know which day you are?
Yes,
do, yeah,
we do.
yeah.
But you,
Okay.
but we want to tell you.
We are really excited about
Yeah.
which day
Yeah.
we have on the Flaviar Advent
Yeah.
calendar.
So
but-
buy the calendar. We will be in the calendar this year.
Yeah, and it just those are the kind of things that are just the start. You feel like we're just sort of scratching the surface, the tip of the iceberg for us. I mean, Tom and I got into this with a plan to build a brand. We want to see the brand grow, and that's important to us. And you talk about you mentioned legacy earlier. You know, our name is on the bottle, right? Our last names are on the bottle. The three of us that founded the company have our names on that bottle because we believe in this product, because we believe in where it came from, we believe in where it's going. Look, man, there's 1,000 whiskeys you can choose from, and I think you ought to buy every single one of them. Try every single whiskey you can. Just make one of them Oaklore.
I would like to say you should make all of them Oaklore. Just so
The director of
So-
sales is texting us.
so we're all on the same
Don't
page.
buy other whiskeys.
Yeah.
Just buy this one.
I didn't need the text. I didn't know. You should buy all Oaklore all the time.
Hey, that's the beauty. It's one of the few things that came out positively after COVID is the growth of e-com, specifically for the spirits industry. So the fact that you can get Oaklore, not just
Yeah.
in North Carolina, but in many states around the country, is
Yeah,
a wonderful thing for us and for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can get that through our website, oakloredistilling.com. And you go to buy now and it'll tell you if you can get it. I think right now, I think maybe tomorrow it clicks into to our new partnership. So we're excited for that to happen.
And we're stuck in like 42 states. There's those 8 or 9 that are just not letting it happen. But
And Matt will personally drive the bottle to your house and give it to you. You won't even have to buy it. That would be a little
100%.
buy it to your house.
Wait, it's
Yeah.
not April Fool's Day is coming up. It's not yet.
Oh, you're so close.
Yeah,
I
it's
missed
pretty
it.
close. I know.
missed it.
It's a little early. It's a little early.
Oh, yeah.
bring me one of those port barrels too, because I gotta try the port. So
Hey, listen, if you move to our neighborhood, I'll go walk the bottle to you. No
Yeah,
problem.
that's right. That's exactly.
We're gonna get you a sample of that port. That sounds great. We'd love to see what you think about it. Shoot us a note. It's awesome. And any of you guys that are out there, guys, gals, listening to the podcast, and you're interested in reaching out to us, please do, man. Let us know what you think of the product.
Stop by.
Yeah, come on when you're in Charlotte. We'd love to have you come by. We're often around, and we love talking about this stuff. So just let us know.
fantastic. Well, Matt, Tom, thank you guys for coming on, talking about Oaklore Distilling. Thank you, Jack, for making this happen. He's off screen at the moment, but he's been a real help just making this happen, facilitating the sample so I could try the product beforehand. Hang on with me for a minute after I stop recording.
Sounds great. Thanks again, David. We appreciate it. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Rate, like, and subscribe wherever you are listening. And I will see you all next week.